Good morning, Cowboy Jim here in Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada. And uh, I did a video last night at about 7:30, and for the first time in all the videos I've done, I had about 52 views on that one singular video, and it was about Sean Penn and Sean Hannity and their conversation together. And Sean Penn, he really surprised me. I had watched him being interviewed before, and he really didn't impress me that terrible much. I thought, he just didn't. And as I was watching this morning, he and Sean Hannity were getting a lot of play from their interview that they had together last night, and and it is surprising when you hear someone who has an axe to grind and they're not afraid of verbalizing it a whole lot. You can get the wrong impression of a person, and so I rather enjoyed watching him talk to Sean Hannity. And Hannity asked him at one point, "Do you trust me yet?" And Sean Penn wouldn't even answer, because when people look at a situation through their own perspective, through the tint, the coloration of their sunglasses, somewhat, shall we say, and they're looking at a liberal and or a conservative making statements and so on and so on, and they're not seeing as clearly as they should. And I don't know that it's possible, but if it ever were possible that people could set aside their political bias and actually listen to what people are saying, that they would learn a whole lot more. And so this morning I was watching where the oil companies, the large oil companies, are being interrogated I'm not sure if it was the Senate or the House or not, but I actually think it was the Senate. And the Democratic senators were giving the oil companies what for. I mean, big time. And the oil companies, they just simply say there are too many restrictions placed on the oil companies in the states that actually limits their ability to not drill wells. They have 9,000 leases apparently, but they cannot get the licensing to do the pipelines to take the oil away from the wells. And there truly does seem to be, and there is, a need within the Democratic Party in the states to make sure that they, as a political party, kill anything to do with fossil fuels. And if we had a Democratic Party up here, as they do in the States, we at Fort McMurray would not be allowed to clean up the world's greatest natural oil spill known to mankind. That's what we do up here in Fort Mac. People don't understand when they're looking through their liberal and or democratic tinted glasses. They don't understand that you have to make money. You have to. The big oil companies, they have investors, and those investors are a little bit nervous with the Democratic Party because the Democrats in the states, they want the new Green Deal to be the answer to all energy sources except fossil fuel. The Democrats in the states want people to go out and buy electric cars for even Elon Musk, that wonderful gentleman that's kind of getting his hands in Twitter a little bit. That's a good thing because political people should not be in a position to declare to you and I who and what you can hear. And that is what happens. I mean, that is what happens. And, uh, and it's not right because it allows a small group of people to wreak havoc on industries that they don't have a clue about. And, uh, and unfortunately, they don't care. But Elon Musk, who has apparently the best electric car in existence today, I'm told, quite possibly it's true. He says you cannot do without some fossil fuels. And the United States of America, under the Democratic tutelage of Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and some of the other nutcases that are in the Democratic Party, and there are people who, if it's not wind, if it's not solar, they don't want anything to do with fossil fuel at all. And what would we be doing up here if we had a Democratic, which is it's the same. Liberals are just as sidetracked in Canada as the Democrats down there. We wouldn't be allowed to clean up the oil spill that is here in Fort Mac, where when the sun heats the banks up along the river, the oil just naturally pours out right into the river. That's not our fault. The job that the big companies have done up here is astounding. It truly is. And yet they're reputed to be into just profit, but they have to have profit. Perhaps, perhaps the average politician in the States would be well advised to consider that most senators and most people in politics, unless they were filthy rich and they bought their position, their place in government by having oodles of money that they could spend on their stupid half truths and half promises of what they're going to do, and when they are done serving the people, they're multi millionaires, and so it was somewhat just laughable to watch a couple of the senators, and it's kind of hard. I mean, I find it very difficult to listen to a politician who, well, perfect example is the Ukraine and NATO and the other, especially the United States of America, saying we are going to help you, but it's not convenient right now, so we'll kind of pretend that we're helping you. And people don't really care about the women and children in the Ukraine being killed. Yes, there are those who, seeing the pictures that Zelensky is showing, and that little lady Olena Gedel with her 3 children hiding in a basement in Kiev. And we're starting to see more and more of the evil represented in any abuse. The abuse of a dictator. Putin, I know, is somewhat of an elected official, but not really. I mean, if you take and you put everyone in jail who opposes you, well, there's no one left who's stupid enough to oppose you unless they're outside the country. And then, even then, their lives aren't safe. So, anyways, don't want to ramble on too long. And but I really appreciate you watching. I really do. I have 415 videos so far, and they go back to May 9th this past year. And that was the first time I ever did a video, and the first time, perhaps other than once before, that I was filmed by a family member, and it's quite a shock. it's quite shocking to try to understand what will people listen to. Like, what is it that they care about? And for me, it's very simple. I care about abuse, and I care about those who inflict their opinions and their ideas on each other, because they are so self-centered that they they end up having children who are abused. And those dear children grow up with that horror of memory that they cannot get rid of. And so you have adult women. I only ever met one man that admitted he had been abused, sexually abused, just one. In all my years of studying people and trying to say, hey, I care. I don't have an axe to grind, but I don't like abuse. And to see abuse in our government, that's what people don't understand. And that was exactly what Trudeau did to the Canadian Freedom Convoy. He abused them, and he used the same language that Putin uses, similar language to what Biden uses, and similar attitude to what Xi Jinping uses when he condemns the world for their mistreatment of each other, and any excuse to try to get the camera off what he has done to the Uyghurs in China, and what he is going to do to Taiwan. And so we have so much and so little we can do. About all you can do is ascertain if you choose to believe in a God, and if you do, pray. Because Trudeau said, when asked what was his favorite country in the world, and Trudeau, in answering, he opened his heart up a little, if he has a heart. And he said his heroes in the world economic system would be CCP, Chinese Communist Party. And he said because they could turn their economy around on a dime. Hey, if the economy is more important than the people who generate that economy, then screw that idea. That's not right. That's not right. It's kind of like what happened in Ottawa, where a man climbed out of his truck, had his hands over his head, got down on his knees, hands still over his head. Two officers put him face down on the ground rather quickly, and were putting handcuffs on him. And he was a Canadian, protesting. That doesn't happen often. But they were cuffing him, and another police officer, RCMP, I believe RCMP, but a police officer working in Ottawa, kneed that man in the ribs while his two friends were putting the handcuffs on. And the guy was submitting totally. And we don't hear anything about that officer that kneed that guy. And of course, I wasn't there. All I saw was a lot of film validating what was happening. But if law and order is not applied equally, if justice is not applied equally, then it's not fair. Down in the States right now, we have Hunter Biden's laptops are being shown. And the reason they're being shown now, instead of 6 months before the last election, and the people that were interviewed who voted in the States on the last election, a large enough number of people who were polled said if they had known anything at all about Hunter Biden's laptops and his dad, Joe Biden's corruption, they would never have voted as they did, which was Democrat in the States. So you have to have justice. It's like my heartfelt concern is for the Ukrainian people who now are having women and children being raped by people in the Russian army. They aren't a reflection. I do not believe they are a reflection at all of the Russian people, because the Russian people referred to the Ukrainian people as being their cousins, and vice versa. But now these kids and these young ladies are being raped, murdered, and burned to destroy DNA. I mean, come on, children. There is too much corruption. And if you're wealthy, like filthy rich, like Joe Biden, Trudeau probably too, you seem to think there's a different standard of law and order. There isn't. It has to be equal for everyone. And so what do you do about it? Well, what you do, this is the only thing you can do. If you ever have a chance to vote again. And there's some question about that, actually. There really is. In Canada, Liberals and NDP have made an arrangement that they won't have to have another election before 2025. Well, if they did, they wouldn't get in. Down in the States, they have open borders where people are just flooding across the southern border. And the Democrats hope and pray, I bet they pray, that those people coming across the borders that are almost non-existent will vote Democrat. And you'll have one more election that is fundamentally rigged. It's not right. So what do? If you get to vote, know the politics of the people you're voting for. More important, understand not just what people say, but why do they say what they say? Like, what's their motivation? And when it comes to a politician, it generally has to do with getting reelected in order to enhance their dollars. There are good politicians, but you have to look for them. And they're not all conservatives. There are good liberals. I have not met many, but have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, God bless. Thank you. Well, this has been a wandering tirade, I'll tell you, but pray for the children, the women and children in the Ukraine. Pray somehow that Putin will get out of Dodge, and he's not. That's not his game plan. Pray, okay? Pray. And those kids that have lived through abuse here in Canada, in the States, around the world, pray that somehow God will touch their hearts and help them to live beyond the horrors that they have experienced. Thank you so very much. Okay. God bless you. You have a good day.